Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched his crew work on the asteroid's surface. The mining operation was going well, but something felt different about this rock. His ship, Terra's Hope, had been drilling for rare metals for 3 days now, and they had found more than expected. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Tony Russo from near the main drilling site. The chief engineer's voice carried excitement that Morrison rarely heard. Tony was usually calm about everything, even when their equipment broke down in the middle of nowhere. Morrison walked over to where Tony stood next to a large hole in the asteroid's surface. The rock around the hole glowed with a strange blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Morrison had never seen anything like it in his 20 years of space mining. "What is it?" Morrison asked, kneeling down to get a better look. "I don't know, but it's not natural," Tony replied. "The drill hit something hard about 50 feet down. When we pulled it back up, this light started glowing. The readings are off the charts." Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's science officer, came, running over with her scanner in hand. Her face was pale with excitement. "Jake, this is incredible. The energy readings are unlike anything in Federation databases. Whatever is down there, it's been here for thousands of years." Morrison felt his heart race. Finding anything unusual during mining operations was rare. Finding something that the Galactic Federation had no record of was almost impossible. The Federation had been exploring space for over 1,000 years. They claimed to know about everything important in the galaxy. "Can we get it out?" Morrison asked. Tony nodded. "Give me 2 hours and some heavy equipment. But Jake, if this is what I think it is, we might be looking at something the Federation won't want us to have." Morrison knew Tony was right. Humans had been part of the Federation for nearly 200 years, but they were always treated as second-class citizens. They got the dangerous jobs like mining asteroids and cleaning space stations. When humans found something valuable, the Federation usually took it away and gave them a small payment. "Let's see what we're dealing with first," Morrison decided. "But keep this quiet for now." The next few hours passed slowly. Morrison's crew worked carefully to dig out whatever was buried in the asteroid. When they finally pulled it free, everyone stopped working to stare. The object was about the size of a small car, shaped like a crystal but made of some unknown metal. It glowed with the same blue light and strange symbols covered its surface. "It's beautiful," whispered Lisa, running her scanner over the object. "The energy patterns are incredible. This technology is far more advanced than anything the Federation uses." Morrison touched the surface of the artifact. The moment his skin made contact, the symbols began to change. New patterns appeared and disappeared as if the object was trying to communicate with him. He pulled his hand back quickly. "Did you see that?" he asked the others. "See what?" Tony replied, looking confused. Morrison touched the artifact again. The same thing happened. The symbols danced across the surface, forming new patterns that somehow felt familiar to him. When Lisa or Tony touched it, nothing happened. The artifact only responded to Morrison. "We need to get this back to the ship," Morrison said, his mind racing with possibilities. "And we need to study it before we report anything to Federation Command." Loading the artifact onto Terra's Hope took most of the day. Morrison's crew worked in shifts, and he made sure everyone understood the importance of keeping quiet about their discovery. Word traveled fast in space, and Morrison didn't want Federation officials showing up before they knew what they had found. That evening, Morrison sat in his quarters staring at the reports Lisa had prepared. The artifact was definitely not made by any known species. The technology was so advanced that their equipment could barely measure its capabilities. Most interesting was the fact that it only responded to human touch. A message came through on his communication system. Morrison's heart sank when he saw the sender. Admiral Helen Brooks, the human representative on the Federation Council, appeared on his screen. She looked tired and frustrated, which was normal for her these days. "Captain Morrison, I've received word that your mining operation discovered something unusual. Please report to Federation Command immediately with any artifacts or unusual materials." Morrison closed the message and looked out his window at the stars. He knew this moment would come. The Federation had spies everywhere, and news of unusual discoveries always reached them quickly. The question was what to do about it. He called Lisa and Tony to his quarters. When they arrived, He played the message from Admiral Brooks. So what? Do we do? Lisa asked. If we turn it over to the Federation, they'll classify it and we'll never see it again. And if we don't, they'll send ships to take it by force, Tony added. You know how they are about humans getting above their station. Morrison had been thinking about this problem all day. Humans were good at their jobs, but the Federation never let them advance beyond basic labor. Human scientists were not allowed to study advanced technology. Human engineers were not allowed to work on important projects. The Federation claimed it was for everyone's safety, but Morrison suspected there were other reasons. What if this artifact could change things? Morrison asked. What if it's technology that could help humanity become equal partners in the Federation, instead of just workers? Lisa looked at her scanner readings again. The energy pattern suggested some kind of transportation device. But the technology is so advanced, I can't figure out how it works. It would take months of study to understand it. Then we better get started, Morrison said, making his decision. We're not turning this over to the Federation. Not yet. Tony looked worried. Jake, this is treason. If they find out we're hiding Federation property, they'll arrest all of us. It's not Federation property, Morrison replied. We found it in unclaimed space. And besides, I'm tired of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own galaxy. Over the next 2 days, Morrison's crew worked around the clock to study the artifact. Lisa discovered that it contained vast amounts of data, including star maps and what appeared to be technical specifications for advanced spacecraft. The maps showed parts of the galaxy that the Federation claimed were empty or dangerous. Most surprising was the discovery that the artifact's technology was based on principles that human scientists had theorized but never been allowed to test. The Federation had always told humans that their ideas about faster-than-light travel were too dangerous and primitive. On the 3rd day, Morrison received another message from Admiral Brooks. This time she looked angry. Captain Morrison, you have 48 hours to report to Federation Command with any artifacts from your mining operation. This is not a request. Failure to comply will result in criminal charges. Morrison looked at his crew. They had all heard the message and knew what it meant. If they turned over the artifact now, humanity would lose its best chance to become more than the Federation's workforce. If they kept it, they would become criminals. Well, team, Morrison said with a slight smile. I guess we're about to find out what humans can really do when we stop following orders. 3 months had passed since Captain Morrison made his decision to hide the artifact from the Federation. Terra's Hope was now docked at Luna Station, orbiting Earth's moon. The ship looked the same from the outside, but everything had changed. Dr. Amanda Phillips worked day and night in the secret laboratory they had built in the station's abandoned section. The quantum physicist had left her Federation research job to study the artifact. What she discovered amazed everyone who saw her reports. Jake, you need to see this, Amanda said as Morrison entered the lab. She looked tired, but excited. I've figured out how it works. Morrison walked over to where Amanda stood next to a small version of the artifact they had built. It glowed with the same blue light, but this one was only the size of a football. We can travel between star systems in days instead of weeks, Amanda explained. And we don't need the Federation's jump gates anymore. The technology creates its own path through space. Morrison felt his heart race. The Federation controlled all space travel through their jump gates. Ships had to pay fees and follow approved routes. If humans could travel independently, everything would change. How does it work? Morrison asked. That's the strange part, Amanda replied. The technology responds to human brain patterns better than any other species. I tested it with samples from Federation databases. Humans can control this system with just their thoughts, but other species need complex computers. Tony Russo came into the lab carrying a datapad. The engineer looked worried. Jake, we have a problem. Someone leaked information about our research. The Federation knows we're working on something. Morrison took the datapad and read the message. It was from Admiral Helen Brooks, and she sounded angry. The Federation had discovered that humans were conducting unauthorized research. They wanted to inspect all human facilities immediately. How much time do we have? Morrison asked. Maybe a day before Federation ships arrive at Luna Station, Tony replied. But there's more bad news. The Altarian Trade Consortium is demanding action. They control most of the shipping contracts in the galaxy. If humans can travel without jump gates, they'll lose billions of credits. Morrison understood the problem. The Altarians had grown rich by charging fees for every ship that used Federation jump gates. They would not allow humans to threaten their business. Commander Rick Hayes entered the lab with General Frank Martinez. Both men looked serious. Hayes commanded Earth's small defense fleet, while Martinez was in charge of protecting human colonies. "Jake, we need to talk," Hayes said. "The Federation has issued an ultimatum. They want us to surrender all research materials and submit to inspection. If we refuse, they'll impose economic sanctions on all human worlds." Martinez added, "Some of our outer colonies can't grow enough food to feed themselves. They depend on Federation supply ships. If those ships stop coming, people will starve." Morrison felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His decision to keep the artifact had put all of humanity at risk. But giving up now would mean humans would never be free from Federation control. "What about our test flights?" Morrison asked Amanda. "Do we know if the technology actually works?" Amanda smiled for the first time in weeks. "We've been testing it in secret. Captain Beth Williams took the New Angeles to Alpha Centauri and back in 2 days. The trip usually takes 3 weeks using Federation jump gates." "The ship performed perfectly," Hayes added. "Williams said the new drive system felt natural to use, like the ship was reading her mind and going where she wanted it to go." Morrison made his decision. "We're not surrendering the technology. If the Federation wants to threaten human colonies, we'll have to find another way to supply them." Over the next few hours, Morrison met with human leaders from across the solar system. The meeting was held in secret, using communication channels the Federation couldn't monitor. Admiral Brooks joined from her office on the Federation capital world. "This is insane," Brooks said when she heard Morrison's plan. "You want to defy the entire Galactic Federation? They have thousands of ships, we have maybe 50. "But our ships can go anywhere without using their jump gates," Morrison replied. "We can supply our colonies even if they blockade us." Dr. Stephen Clark, a former Federation analyst, had been studying Federation communications. What he discovered was disturbing. "I've been analyzing intercepted messages," he said. "The Federation has been deliberately keeping humans from advancing. They need us as workers, but they're afraid of what we might become if we get too powerful." Clark showed them files that proved the Federation had been suppressing human research for decades. Any time human scientists made important discoveries, the Federation classified the work and gave the credit to other species. "There's more," Clark continued. "I found evidence that the Federation has been starting conflicts between species to keep everyone weak. They want to be the only power in the galaxy." Morrison felt anger building inside him. Humans had served the Federation faithfully for 2 centuries, and this was how they were treated. They were kept ignorant and dependent, while other species prospered. The meeting was interrupted by an emergency alert. Tony Russo's voice came through the communication system. "Jake, Federation ships just dropped out of hyperspace. 3 battlecruisers and a dreadnought. They're demanding permission to board Luna Station." Morrison looked at the other leaders on the screen. "This is it. We either surrender now or we fight for our freedom." Admiral Brooks looked scared. "Jake, those ships can destroy Luna Station with 1 shot. We can't fight the Federation Navy." "Maybe we can't fight them," Morrison said, "but we can outrun them." Hayes understood what Morrison meant. "You want to evacuate Luna Station using the new drive system?" "Not just Luna Station," Morrison replied. "Every human facility in Federation space. We'll move our people to colonies they can't reach without jump gates." The plan was risky, but it was their only choice. Human ships equipped with the new technology began arriving at Luna Station. Each ship could carry hundreds of people and travel faster than anything the Federation had. Captain Williams arrived first with the New Angeles. Her ship looked like any other human vessel, but the new drive system made it incredibly fast. "Ready to show the Federation what humans can really do," she said over the communication channel. As Federation ships moved closer to Luna Station, human vessels began jumping away using the new technology. The Federation captains watched in confusion as human ships disappeared without using jump gates. They had never seen anything like it. Morrison was on the last ship to leave Luna Station. As Terra's Hope jumped away from Earth's solar system, he watched Federation ships arrive at the empty station. They were too late. Humanity had chosen freedom over safety, and there was no going back. The rebellion had begun. 2 weeks after the evacuation from Luna Station, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of Terra's Hope, watching human ships deliver food to the colony on Kepler-7. The Federation had blockaded all human worlds, but their new technology allowed them to slip past enemy patrols without being detected. "Supply run complete," reported Captain Beth Williams from the New Angeles. "The colonists have enough food for 3 months. But Jake, we need to talk about what happened during our approach." Morrison frowned. Williams sounded worried, which was unusual for the fearless pilot. "What's wrong, Beth?" "A Federation patrol tried to intercept us. 3 Zephyrian battlecruisers. I had to use combat maneuvers to avoid them. The new drive system worked perfectly, but they seemed surprised by how fast we could move." Dr. Stephen Clark, who was monitoring Federation communications from his station on Terra's Hope, looked up from his screens. "Jake, I'm picking up confused chatter from Federation forces. They can't understand how human ships are moving so quickly. Some of their captains think we have alien allies." Morrison smiled grimly. The Federation had always underestimated humans. They assumed that humans were too primitive to develop advanced technology on their own. That mistake was about to cost them dearly. "Captain Morrison," came a voice over the communication system. It was Admiral Helen Brooks, calling from her hiding place on a human colony ship. "I have news from the Federation capital. They have declared humanity a rogue species and authorized military action against all human vessels." Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Being declared a rogue species meant that any Federation member could attack human ships without warning. It also meant that humans could no longer expect protection under Federation law. "There's more," Brooks continued. "The Altarian Trade Consortium is offering a bounty for any human ship captured with the new technology. They want to study our drive systems." Tony Russo, who was working on upgrades to Terra's Hope, looked up from his console. "They can try to capture us, but good luck with that. Our ships can jump away faster than they can lock weapons." Morrison was about to respond when alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Corporal Mike Johnson's voice came over the intercom from the security station. "Captain, we have multiple Federation ships dropping out of hyperspace. Looks like a full battle squadron." Morrison ran to the bridge and looked at the tactical display. 12 Federation warships had appeared around Kepler-7. The human supply convoy was trapped between the planet and the enemy fleet. "This is Admiral Veltar of the Zephyrian Navy," came a voice over the communication channel. "Human vessels, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your ships." Morrison looked at his crew. They were scared but determined. These people had followed him from Luna Station, leaving behind everything they knew to fight for human freedom. He would not let them down. "All human ships, this is Morrison," he said into his communication system. "Execute combat formation Delta. Let's show the Federation what humans can do in a fight." The next few minutes changed everything. Captain Williams, commanding the New Angeles, made the first move. Her ship jumped directly behind the Federation flagship and fired all weapons before jumping away again. The Zephyrian Admiral's ship took heavy damage and began spinning out of control. Other human ships followed Williams's example. They would appear next to Federation vessels, fire their weapons, and disappear before the enemy could respond. The Federation ships were faster and more heavily armed, but they could not hit targets that moved unpredictably through space. "Their weapons can't track us," reported Tony Russo, who was monitoring the battle from Terra's Hope. "We can jump to any position instantly. They have to guess where we'll appear next." Morrison watched as human ships destroyed 3 Federation battle cruisers in less than 10 minutes. The remaining enemy vessels tried to retreat, but human ships followed them and continued attacking. It was not a battle. It was a demonstration of superior technology. When the fighting ended, Admiral Veltar's flagship was the only Federation ship still functioning. Morrison ordered all human vessels to surround the damaged ship. "Admiral Veltar," Morrison said over the communication channel. "This is Captain Morrison of the human fleet. Do you surrender?" There was a long silence before the Zephyrian admiral responded. His voice sounded shocked and defeated. "How is this possible? Your species was barely capable of spaceflight 2 centuries ago. Maybe you should have paid more attention to what humans were capable of," Morrison replied. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is damaged. What will you tell the Federation Council?" The battle at Kepler-7 was broadcast across the galaxy by human agents who had infiltrated Federation communication networks. The video showed human ships moving like nothing anyone had ever seen, destroying a superior enemy force through speed and tactics. Dr. Clark intercepted dozens of messages from Federation worlds as news of the battle spread. "Jake, you need to hear this," he said, playing recordings of alien communications. "Species across the galaxy are talking about what happened. Many of them sound impressed." One message caught Morrison's attention. It was from a representative of the Draconian Republic, a reptilian species that had been fighting a losing war against Federation peacekeepers for years. "Human vessels, this is Commander Scarwing of the Draconian Fleet. We have watched your battle with great interest. Perhaps it is time for a meeting." Morrison knew this was important. The Draconians were strong fighters, but they lacked the technology to compete with Federation forces. If humans could help them, they might become valuable allies. More messages arrived from other species. The Kepler mining guilds, who had been exploited by Altarian trade monopolies for decades, wanted to discuss cooperation with human forces. Even some Federation member species were secretly asking if humans would share their technology. "Jake," said Dr. Clark, showing him a data analysis of intercepted communications, "I think we've started something bigger than just human independence. Other species are beginning to question Federation authority." Morrison realized that their fight for freedom had become something more. By proving that humans could defeat Federation forces, they had shown other oppressed species that rebellion was possible. Captain Williams docked with Terra's Hope after the battle. When she came aboard, she was smiling for the first time in weeks. "Jake, that was incredible. Our ship's handled like nothing I've ever flown. It's like the technology knows what we want to do before we think it." Morrison gathered his senior officers in the conference room. The battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. The Federation would not give up easily, and humans needed allies if they wanted to survive. "We've proven that we can fight," Morrison said to his team. "Now we need to prove that we can lead. Other species are watching us. If we can unite them against the Federation, we might actually win this war." Tony Russo looked at the tactical reports from the battle. "The Federation will change their tactics now. They won't underestimate us again." "Good," Morrison replied. "Let them come with everything they have. We'll show the galaxy what happens when you try to keep humans down." 6 months after the battle at Kepler-7, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge, humanity's new flagship. Around him, screens showed dozens of alien species working together in ways the galaxy had never seen before. The rebellion had grown beyond anything Morrison had imagined. "Jake, the Draconian fleet is in position," reported Captain Ryan Mitchell from the pilot's chair. The young officer had become one of humanity's best pilots, able to coordinate the movements of multiple species using the ancient technology. Ambassador Susan Davis appeared on the main screen from her diplomatic ship. She had been working non-stop to build alliances with alien species who wanted to overthrow the Federation. Her efforts had paid off in ways no one expected. "Morrison, I have good news," Davis said with a tired smile. "The Kepler mining guilds have agreed to join our final assault. That gives us control of 60% of the galaxy's industrial capacity." Morrison nodded. The mining guilds had been the key to their success. When they stopped sending materials to Federation worlds, the enemy's ability to build new ships had collapsed. Other species had watched this happen and realized the Federation was not as powerful as everyone believed. Dr. Stephen Clark came onto the bridge carrying datapads filled with intelligence reports. "Jake, Our spies inside the Federation capital. Confirm it. They're planning to use the planet killer weapon on Earth. If we don't stop them in the next 48 hours, our homeworld will be destroyed. Morrison felt anger burn in his chest. The Federation was so desperate to stop the rebellion that they would commit genocide. They planned to kill billions of innocent people just to make an example of humanity. How many ships do they have left? Morrison asked. About 200 warships protecting the capital world, Clark replied. But here's the important part. Our human crews are the only ones who can coordinate attacks with this many different species. The aliens are brave fighters, but they need human leadership to work together effectively. Morrison understood the problem. The ancient technology responded best to human minds, but it also allowed humans to communicate with alien crews in ways that had never been possible. Human captains could coordinate fleets of different species because the technology translated thoughts and intentions instantly. Colonel Paul Anderson joined them on the bridge. The Special Forces commander had been leading secret missions behind enemy lines for months. His latest report was the most important yet. "Jake, we found it," Anderson said quietly. "The planet killer weapon is on a space station orbiting the Federation capital. My team can get inside, but we need a distraction. A big one." Morrison looked at the tactical display showing their combined fleet. Over 3,000 ships from dozens of species waited for his orders. Humans commanded most of the squadrons because alien crews trusted human tactical skills. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. "How long do you need?" Morrison asked Anderson. 2 hours once the attack begins. "But Jake, this won't be easy. The Federation has been preparing for this battle for months. They know. We're coming." Admiral Helen Brooks appeared on another screen from her command ship. She looked older than Morrison remembered, but her eyes were determined. "Jake, I've been in contact with Federation loyalists. Some of them are having second thoughts about destroying Earth. If we can capture their leaders quickly, we might convince others to surrender." Morrison made his decision. "All fleet commanders, this is Morrison. Begin final approach to the Federation capital. Remember, we're not just fighting for human freedom anymore. We're fighting for every species that wants to be free." The next few hours would decide the fate of the galaxy. Morrison watched as human-led squadrons moved into attack positions. Around the heavily defended capital world, Draconian heavy cruisers followed human light destroyers. Kepler mining ships converted into weapons platforms worked alongside sleek alien fighters. Species that had been enemies for centuries now fought side by side under human coordination. The battle began when Captain Mitchell led the first wave of attackers against Federation defense stations. The new drive technology allowed human ships to appear anywhere instantly, but the Federation had learned from previous defeats. They spread their defenses wide and used area weapons that could hit multiple targets. "They're adapting to our tactics," reported Tony Russo from the engineering station. "But they still can't predict where we'll appear next." Morrison watched the tactical display as human commanders coordinated attacks across the entire battle zone. Captain Beth Williams led Draconian squadrons against the planet killer station, while other human officers directed mining guild ships to destroy Federation supply bases. "Anderson, report." Morrison called over the communication system. "We're inside the station," came Anderson's voice through static and weapons fire. "But Jake, you need to see this. The weapon isn't just pointed at Earth. They have target coordinates for every world that joined the rebellion. They plan to destroy all of us." Morrison felt cold fear run through his body. The Federation was not just threatening humanity. They wanted to commit genocide against every species that had dared to rebel against their authority. "How much longer do you need?" Morrison asked. 10 minutes to disable the weapon, but the Federation fleet is closing in on your position. You need to hold them off." The next 10 minutes felt like hours. Human-led squadrons fought desperately against Federation forces while Anderson's team worked to disable the planet killer. Ships exploded around Morrison as both sides threw everything they had into the battle. "Jake, this is Williams," came Beth's voice over the communication channel. "The station's defenses are down. Anderson's team is at the weapon." Morrison watched as explosions erupted inside the Federation space station. Anderson and his soldiers had succeeded. The planet-killer weapon was destroyed, and with it the Federation's last chance to terrorize rebellious species into submission. "All Federation ships, this is Admiral Veltar," came a familiar voice over the communication system. It was the Zephyrian commander Morrison had defeated at Kepler 7. "The Federation Council has agreed to surrender. All ships stand down." Morrison could hardly believe what he was hearing. The war was over. The galaxy was free. 3 months later, Morrison stood in the council chambers of the new Free Galactic Alliance. Representatives from hundreds of species worked together to create a government based on cooperation instead of fear. Humans, despite being one of the younger species, found themselves in leadership positions throughout the new alliance. The ancient artifact was left by a species that believed someone would eventually have the courage to challenge unjust authority, explained Dr. Amanda Phillips during her presentation to the council. They chose to hide their technology until a species emerged that could unite others in the cause of freedom. Morrison smiled as he watched alien delegates working together to solve problems that had divided the galaxy for centuries. Human officers helped train alien crews to use the new technology. Human diplomats mediated disputes between former enemies. Human engineers designed ships that could be operated by any species. Captain Ryan Mitchell approached Morrison after the council session ended. "Admiral, our exploration fleets are ready to launch. We have volunteers from 30 different species ready to explore the unknown regions of the galaxy." Morrison looked out the window at the stars beyond. For the first time in galactic history, every species was truly free to explore and grow, without fear of oppression. Humanity's decision to risk everything for freedom had given the entire galaxy a new beginning. "Then let's see what's out there," Morrison said. Together,